What's up everyone, Razma here, back with another patch TLDR. This is patch 11.11, which is slated to go live on 5/26, which is tomorrow. There's another really big patch, and this is going to be the TLDR, just what changes, and then after this, at the end of the video, I'll be explaining my thoughts about a lot of the changes. So let's just get right into it. So, system changes, shop rates, level 6 and level 7. Pretty much level 6, you're going to see more 2 costs. Level 7, you're going to see more 3 costs. If you're slow rolling, those will be the time. More shadow items on carousels. And Nico and 2 gold star is getting changed to Nico and a 2 cost champion. Or Nico and a 3 cost champion. For traits, Abomination is getting a health buff, a health scaling buff, an attack damage buff, an attack damage scaling buff, and a cast time reduction, so big A-bomb changes. Forgotten 9 is getting a numbers nerf, Knight 6 is getting a numbers nerf, Skirmisher is getting a flat shield changed into a percent max health shield. Spellweaver 4 is getting a flat AP nerf and a scaling nerf. For 1 cost units, Udyr is getting an attack damage nerf on Tiger Stance. Vlad is getting a pretty sizable damage buff at all 3 star levels. For tier 2 champions, LeBlanc is getting a flat stun duration now, so it's 2 seconds at all star levels, and she's getting a 2 and 3 star damage nerf. Sejuani is gaining armor and MR buff after cast at 1 and 2 star. Soraka is gaining a 10 max mana buff, so she's 70 instead of 80. Trundle is losing ability power ratio, so it's only getting 50%, and his stat steal is lasting 8 seconds instead of 6. Varus 3 is getting a nerf on the on-hit damage. Lulu is getting an attack speed buff at 3 star for her ability. Morgana's getting a health buff plus a starting mana buff. Pantheon is getting nerfed across the boards, 65% damage reduction on all 3 star levels. Nidalee is gaining a 1, 2, and 3 star spell damage buff. Riven is gaining a 3 star damage buff on her for the attack damage bonus. For 4 costs, Aphelios is getting a 5 AD buff. Draven is getting a nerf at 1 and 2 star to his attack damage multiplier on his spinning axes, but he's gaining a buff at 3 star on both that plus his bonus damage. TLDR, Daisy's getting even stronger again. Karma's getting a small AP buff at 1 and 2 star and a nerf at 3 star. Jax is gaining a sizable attack speed nerf at 1 and 2 star on the scaling, but a buff at 3 star. Mordekaiser is getting a 10 mana nerf, and Vel'Koz is getting a 100 damage nerf at 1 and 2 star. For the 5 costs, Darius, TLDR, buff to his ability, but nerf to the armor shred. And Garen, same thing. The ability's not getting changed, just starting mana is getting changed, but a nerf to the MR shred. Heimerdinger 1 and 2 are getting damage buffs. Kale is getting a massive health nerf, 700 to 500. And Volibear is getting a starting mana buff. For items, Archangels is getting a 5% AP mana ratio increase. Archdemons is getting a buff. Visthirster is getting a buff of attack speed. Both Deathblades, Caustic and Regular, are getting a 1 stack buff to starting. Gunblade of Immortality will now heal the ally with the lowest percent health, which I think is a huge buff. Final Whisper, which is the Shadow Last Whisper, is getting a big shred buff. Redemption is getting a 5% health nerf. Static Shiv and Shadow Shiv are getting a 20% shred nerf. And Vengeful Trapclaw, which is Shadow Trapclaw, is getting a rework. The thing will now work like a Zeke's does, where it gives a shield to 3 separate units in a line, 1, 2, 3, but it no longer stuns the unit. So it'll block the first enemy ability, but it will not stun the caster, the Shadow version. And then we have the bug fixes. So that is your 5-minute TLDR of what changes, and now I'm going to just go over, in my terms, what I think this means for everything. So, for the shop rate changes, we're going to see probably a little bit shift in the meta where you'll be able to roll at level 6 and get for 2-star carries. You know, if you lose streak all like the first 5 or 6 fights, rolling at level 6, get a 2-star 2-cost, you know, get yourself a LeBlanc 2, a Varus 2, something, a Brand 2, something that can carry for you to then stabilize will actually be pretty viable. As well as if you're slow rolling for a 2-cost carry specifically, level 6 would now be the time because it's a 40%. The same thing for level 7. Level 7 is going up to a 35% chance for a 3-cost. So at level 7 is definitely when you want to go for a 3-cost, and the level 7 roll down could be for a 2 to 3 star of a 3-cost carry. Or just units. What this means, hopefully, is the level 7 roll down, you know, roll down 4-1, level 7, hope to hit a 4-cost carry, might not be as punishing now, because you can hit 2 and 3 star units, 2 and 3 cost units a lot easier, and star them up a lot easier. So hopefully that's what that means. We'll wait and see how it actually starts to play out. The more shadow item change is just, we'll see more shadow items, get used to playing around them. If you really don't like using them, try to avoid them. Just try to get used to them. The Nico change is I think is a pretty decent change to the Nico. I still don't like Nico 2 Gold myself, but oh well. Abomination is going to get massive buffs again. I think you're going to see a lot more people playing Abomination as like a frontline to anything. I think like a Draven with Abomination is going to be pretty good because 2 Legionnaire with Callista. I think Vel'Koz is still going to be pretty good with Abomination with the 2 Spellweaver. And I think just playing like any carries behind the Abomination would now be pretty good. I still don't know if the Abomination could be a true carry or not. We'll have to just wait and see. The rest of the Forgotten and the Knight, I don't see many changes really happening with those. The Skirmisher Shield, what this pretty much means is if you have 6 Skirmisher, like the Skirmishers are worse at lower star levels, but should get a little bit better with the more star levels. So like you have a full 2-star board with 6 Skirmisher and you put like a Warmog on somebody, the shield's going to actually be a lot bigger. So I think it's supposed to just be balancing it out around actually requiring a lot of 2 costs. Seems pretty good overall. The Spellweaver 4 nerf, I don't really understand it that much. Maybe they just thought it was giving Vel'Koz too much AP. Honestly, I don't think it really needed it. You didn't play for Spellweaver unless you were playing the A-bomb version anyway. So we'll see on that. I think that like probably stay away from Force Spellweaver for the most part. Just play better units, but we'll see. Udyr and Vlad, not many big changes. I think Vlad's getting pretty big changes. Might make Nightbringers a little better. That's about it. LeBlanc, I think LeBlanc's going to be in a really rough spot because you won't really be able to stabilize on LeBlanc 2. And LeBlanc 3 is taking a pretty big hit as well. And so, like, LeBlanc 2 probably doesn't stabilize you through, like, stage 4 anymore. You can't just sit on LeBlanc 2. You'll have to go for the 3-star. That's going to be kind of rough. I think Soraka, mana buff, probably didn't need to be had. Thought she was a good unit anyway. Oh well. The big one here is the Trundle. Trundle's Subjugate Ability Power Ratio. What this means is he's only getting half the value out of ability power as he was. And since Dragon Slayer gives a crap ton of ability power, he's getting a lot worse on that stage. Plus, with the stat steal duration going up to 8 seconds, means he cannot start stealing from someone until 8 seconds after he steals the first person, at least, because those stats stay with him for those 8 seconds, which is actually, I think, more of a nerf for how Trundle's being played right now. Yeah, he will be stronger overall himself because of the stat steal duration, but he won't be making other tanks. You know, he won't be stealing stats from multiple units in one fight as often. Overall, I think that was a hugely needed change. I think Trundle was absolutely a monster and way too good for a 2-cost unit. The Varus 3 butt nerf, not really much. I think the biggest one out of the 3 costs, the biggest one is probably the Morgana. Morgana getting 50 HP plus starting mana means that she probably will not need a GA to get her ult out fully because of the starting mana and the extra health. So you will not have to itemize her as much now, which could make it very, very good for Nightbringer and Coven comps. The Pantheon nerf, again, one of the Dragon Slayers like Trundle, it was absolutely needed. He's not losing AP scaling, so, he's still going to scale really well with Dragon Slayer. He'll still be a super tank, just not as tanky. And the Nidalee and Riven changes, maybe we'll see some sort of, level 7 slow roll Dawnbringer comp show up with Nidalee 3, Riven 3. I think that could be pretty viable. We'll have to wait and see. That's something that if I get the hits early on, I might actually try myself. The 4-cost carries, I'm not going to go over, majority of this itself. Pretty much, this is just trying to bring all of them in line again. I think the Jax nerf with the Dragon Slayer hits might be a little bit too much. But maybe with the 6 Skirmisher, how the extra shielding is going to work now, basing off of max health, maybe it'll be okay. I didn't actually honestly think Jax was the true oppressive part of the Skirmisher comp. It was the Trundle, Pantheon, Mord. It was the Dragon Slayers. But overall, all of these buffs and nerfs just pretty much try to put all of the 4 costs roughly in line with each other, which I think is a pretty good thing. I did think Vel'Koz was a little too strong. The mana nerf on Mord is fine. Draven a little too strong. Aphelios was a little too weak. So just bringing them all in line, I think, is good. And the big changes, I feel like, are with the items and the Darius Garen. So, what this shred changes mean, because this is the big change with the 5 costs, is we're going to be seeing a lot more effective armor and effective magic resistance now. Because a unit like people throwing in Garen late game were just instantly shredding 70% of people's magic resistance. Same thing with a Shiv. Shiv was shredding 70% of magic resistance. Well, it's no longer doing that. It's only shredding 50, which means Mystic 2, 3, 4 is now more effective against those magic damage comps. So if you're playing against the Vel'Koz, if you're playing against the Karma, going multiple Mystics will be a great counter to it now. I think we're going to be into a more of a defensive-sided meta, where you're going to be playing long haul sort of fights a lot. Meaning slugfests. You're playing 2 or 3 Mystics with a lot of CC. Ryze and Lulu come with a lot of CC. They're playing 2 or 3 Mystics, and we're going to see a lot of slugfest and positioning differences, I feel like. Hopefully that's the case, because honestly, this meta right now, I have not been having a good time. And I hope this really, really does help shake things up. The other biggest thing here is hopefully Heimer becomes viable again with 100 base damage at 1 star, 50 more base damage at 2 star. These slower fights that we're talking about. With all of that changing together, I think Heimer might become viable again. So that's pretty good. And honestly, I don't know about this Kayle nerf. Kayle taking 200 health, that feels too much for me. 4 procs of Shiv could kill a Kayle now. I'm not sure. I think that's too much. We'll have to wait and see how it feels. But personally, I think that's a way too big a hit on Kayle. Volibear starting mana buff. Yeah, he needed it. He just needed it so he could ult sooner in the fight, which makes perfect sense. The 2 Archangels and Archdemons. Usability buffs, I'd feel like. Honestly, they're still not items I'd really slam early. But if you have to put them on a late game carry because it's your last items, go ahead. That's pretty much how I've been using them anyway. The Risk Thirster buff is just a little bit more offense, which is pretty nice. The Deathblade and Caustic Deathblade, again, really, they've fallen out of flavor, and IE has been the predominant AD item. Hopefully, with this little bit of a buff, a Deathblade on Aphelios, Shadow Hurricane Deathblade combo, probably be pretty good still. This, I feel like, is going to be the Hextech Gunblade of Immortality heal target. What that means is now, if you put that on your AP carry, and they start dealing damage, they're going to heal the ally with the lowest health, which means they're probably going to start healing your front line, which is actually extremely strong. I see Brand, Karma, Vel'Koz with this being a really, really big thing. How I was talking about those longevity of fights. This would really make that happen. The Final Whisper, which is the Shadow Last Whisper, is now how you're going to get 70% armor shred and MR shred if you want to hit that 70% again. I think the item might be usable now, but still with its negative of taking 25% armor and MR from the holder is a pretty big negative. So we'll have to wait and see if people really value it or not. Most games, I probably won't end up building it still, but if I see a lot of people going like 3 or 4 Mystic, like 3 Ironclad, yeah, I'm going to start trying out Final Whisper some more. Redemption nerf, I think it needed it. It was really, really strong. This probably brings it about in line where it needs to be. The shred reduction we know about, and the Vengeful Trapclaw, I think, is a fantastic idea. That's how you can deal with Diana. That's how you can deal with Viego now. You pop that on one of your backline units as a support unit. You buff that backline unit. You buff your carry. You buff one more unit with it. A Viego hits it, it gets blocked. A Diana hits it, it gets blocked. I think that's a fantastic rework of that item. Might be a little too strong, honestly, but we'll have to just wait and see. It doesn't have the stun portion, but it does have the blocking the ability. And overall, that's all the major changes. So my full overarching thoughts, I think Nightbringer and Dawnbringer comps are going to come back pretty well. I think, like 4 and 6 Nightbringer, Dawnbringer are going to be great. I feel like Yasuo carry is probably going to be one of the strongest, because if anything, that comp just got buffed. It didn't really take any nerfs, and it's already a really strong comp. You have 4 to 6 Nightbringer, Yasuo, a couple Legionnaires, and then Phil. I think that's going to be a great comp. I think with Karma getting buffed, Invokers not being touched besides that, so like Teemo's still really strong, Heimer being really strong, I think Garen is going to become one of the most contested units in the game. Because you're playing with Karma, you're playing with Vel'Koz, you're playing with Teemo, you're playing with Heimer. There are 4 different carries right there where you're going to want a Garen on board. So I think that's going to be one of the most contested units in the game. I think we're probably going to see more of a, I think the meta should straight out to be pretty healthy right now. Looking at all these changes, I'm excited. We'll have to wait and see. And that sums up the patch 11.11 notes and my thoughts about it. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you get a jump start in the meta tomorrow. If you did, please like, subscribe, and come see me live on Twitch. I'm live 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to roughly 6 p.m., sometimes a little earlier, sometimes a little later. Thanks, everyone, and have a fantastic night.